Hello and happy Wednesday, everyone. Today we're going to be going over Tinto Talks number 31, which is going to be covering war declarations, peace deals, peace treaties, aggressive expansion and enthusiasm, and and also war participation for the upcoming game, which is very big top, big secret, big nice, which is going to be Europa Universalis 5, except it's not because it hasn't been spoiled, but it is, and so this is the way of things. And reading through this dev diary made me a little bit sad. Because I just wish Victoria 3's like peace offers and like this type of stuff, like all of this stuff, like EU4 I think does such a better job, and just seeing how EU5 is going to be basically kind of the same as EU4, and I was just like, man, reading about all this, I wish they did this for Victoria 3 in a lot of ways, because I think that the way you declare wars and resolve wars in Victoria 3 is just like, it just doesn't feel good. It's like immersion breaking. The like sub like zero infamy thing. Just like this got me feeling some kind of way reading through this. But you know what raised my spirits? We got our Happy Wednesday back. After last week breaking the like 8 or 9 week streak of Happy Wednesdays, which was a sad week, a sore week, something about the red sun rising, we did get a Happy Wednesday this week, which is absolutely fantastic, so let's jump right into it. Welcome to another Tinto Talks, the Happy Wednesday, where we spill the blood of our enemies. Where we spill the secrets of our upcoming game with the codename Project Teaser. I misspelled Caesar here. Definitely Project Teaser, except it would be Project Kaiser, right? But last week, we forgot to wish everyone a Happy Wednesday, for which we apologize. We at Paradox can do better, and we will do better. They spelled this a little bit weird, but, it is what it is. But okay, we're going to talk about how wars end, as well as discuss the peace system. If you have played any other strategy games from Paradox, some of this may not be news to you. Yeah, this basically just sounds like EU4 system in a nutshell. So if you were just here for the Happy Wednesday and, the TLDRs, it sounds a lot like EU4. But, moving into it. Peace offers. To end a war, you need to negotiate peace with either the leader on the side or the leader on your side. Or if you are the leader on your side, you can negotiate a separate peace. Or if you are the leader on your side, you can negotiate a separate peace with a single independent country on the other side. This, as far as I can recall, it's been a while since I played EU4, but this is the way I remember it going. We get the nice loud car outside before we get the loud planes outside later. One thing that is important to notice is that if you declare a war for a war goal to conquer a certain province, then you cannot take any other land unless you take the war goal. I'm not sure if this is present in EU4. I don't think that this is necessarily a problem. You have to take land in order to, you have to occupy land in order to take it, so you might have this situation that is a little bit frustrating, in that if you take a bunch of land other than your war goal, you can't actually take that land in a peace deal, this type of thing, which maybe doesn't make sense, but okay. To be able to take land, you also need to have control over the province capital, so that's kind of the deal. So if we, the war goal is province A, and then we occupy province B and C, we will not be able to enforce for province B and C unless we've already taken province A. And also, in order to take province B and C, we need to occupy them as well. This seems fine enough, though. But okay, let's continue. A peace offer will consist of a set of treaties, which can have a total value up to 100 peace cost. I really like the way that, war score and peace cost and this type of thing works in EU4 relative to Vic 3. Vic 3, everything has flat costs, and the costs don't scale proportionally to how valuable the thing. So releasing Occitania from France costs the same as releasing Brittany from France in terms of maneuvers, which makes no sense to me. It doesn't scale proportionally. Things scale proportionally to population, but that leads to like weird circumstances where the entire metagame in Victoria, well, to be fair, I'm fine with things scaling with population, but like it does create metagame situations where provinces that have really low pops and a ton of resources will be extremely valuable, and they should probably be in some way more valued, by nations, just like Sinai should be more valued by nations, generally speaking, because of the presence of the canal, and the game fails to take into account for that. And so, like, reading through this, like, we read through kind of the lens of Victoria 3, or this is what I think through, and so, the 100 peace cost, where stuff has variable peace, kind of like modifiers, other than population would be nice, or just like everything costing flat. Like, yeah, the releasing, yeah. There's a lot of flat costs in Victoria 3, which I don't think should be flat. I think they should scale, but anyways. Of course, the other side would have to agree, and they're very likely to not accept anything where the peace cost is higher than the current war score. So we have a war score system where, you know, you do things to increase the war score, and the war score system in EU4 in particular, I also like a lot better than the, like, ticking below zero system in Vic 3. The ticking below zero system in Vic 3 just kind of feels awful. You either, like, a lot of times you get forced out of a war that, like, you are kind of comfortably winning, or like there's a war you have no business like being able to win, but because you can keep them off the war goal, even though they're wrecking you otherwise, like you can enforce on them even though they're effectively winning the war. But okay, peace in our time? Certainly not. Now we have peace treaties. A peace treaty can be the transfer of a location, province, or area. It can also, and I thought that this part was interesting because there's some new stuff, it can also force another country to stop sending privateers, or transferring gold to you, or dismantling a fortification in a location. This I thought was interesting, humiliating them or any of the other dozens upon dozens of possible peace treaties and Project Caesar. This I thought was interesting, that there's going to be a lot of different kind of peace things that you can enforce. Dozens upon dozens. So there's at least dozens means at least multiple dozen, and another dozen means another multiple dozen. So this means there's at least 48 peace treaties, which is a lot. Or he's just likes to say dozens, which, to be fair, I think if someone had 36, you know, kind of peace treaties, they said dozens upon dozens, most people would not consider that like a thing. But if there's 48 plus possible peace treaties, that's a whole lot, and that to me is like an interesting little bit of news, if there are going to really be that many peace treaties, because being able to very finely tunedly execute something, I think is like really, really nice. And so it'll be cool if you could do that. Like, you can force them to build buildings, you can force them to delete buildings, you know, you can force them to not have relations with another country. I think that this was something you could do in EU4. You can break alliances as part of a peace deal, which I always thought was pretty cool. So you could slowly try and maneuver around getting a particular war that you liked. EU4 also, in terms of the war and this type of stuff, is a lot more transparent in terms of who's going to be at the war at the start, although other people can be convinced to join. This is another thing that I like, although Victoria 3 has become increasingly transparent because they show you how likely people are deciding on a war. The cost of each treaty depends on multiple factors, whether it's the war goal or not, the population, the type of treaty, and so on. So we do see the base cost, and we see a whole bunch of modifiers. The base cost is 2.19 due to it being part of PLOC, I don't know what that means, not a war goal. So this is how I think that Victoria 3 should work is, you know, I would love it if you had a peace deal and everything that was not part of the initial declaration cost a whole bunch more infamy, or a whole bunch more of whatever resource you want to use in executing the war goal, such that it's harder to take stuff you have not explicitly said you want from the outset, but is something you can still do. We see same culture, same religion, power projection, all these modifiers seem fine. There's some modifiers in Victoria 3, it largely has to do with unrecognized versus recognized, and like GP versus non-GP, like these types of things, but okay. We see belligerent, lack of control is a very interesting and neat modifier, I think. You know, this making it cheap for if someone blobs out and you are taking the fringe of the blob. Geez, that's a term, right? But if you're taking the very outer edge of the blob, it's going to be really, really cheap for you to nab up from them in terms of war score. And I assume also in terms of the amount of aggressive expansion it generates. But okay. And then we see this war goal, the type of war we declare multiplies it by a further 0.75, so multiplies it by further 0.75, so you'll be getting a 25% discount on top of that, and we end up getting a total piece cost of 2.19. The base is going to be 1. And so numbers are still being tweaked, as of course they do, but this is, you can see there's a lot of different modifiers. I think there should be a resource modifier in Victoria 3 somehow, which kind of will help to represent the true value of a lot of states. because a lot of states are really, really valuable. They don't have a lot of pop, and as a result, they are extremely cheap to take. And if anyone knew the resources were there, so it would be only discovered resources. So if the gold's not yet appeared, it would be not, kind of obviously present to influence the modifier, but resources that have appeared. Also, I think resources should be not all discovered, not just gold, but like there should be hidden iron, hidden coal, this type of stuff. Would be also super cool if there was variable resources. This type of stuff should actually change up the game quite a bit, and if there was further kind of mechanics for it. Well, let's stop talking about Victoria 3. That's just like how we kind of process information through, but we're talking about Project Teaser, which is the unnamed game that is big secret. Okay, so now, big secret, aggressive, big if true, aggressive expansion. Now, aggressive expansion, I kind of like more than the infamy system, because of aggressive expansion, at least in EU4, applies differently to different countries based on, they basically don't like it if you expanded to people that are associated with them, their religion, their culture, this type of thing. But let's read into it. I don't think they talk too much about that type of thing. It's just a little paragraph. AE is one of the drawbacks of strengthening your country ahead of others. Your own country ahead of others. This is interesting. Strengthening your own country ahead of others. Will we get AE for non-war stuff too? I guess so. Taking territory is one of the easiest ways to increase it. While taking land impacts your own country a fair bit, it also impacts the opinions of other countries near the source of the aggressive expansion a fair bit. If your AE is high enough, that is aggressive expansion, countries with a low enough opinion of you may join a coalition against you. A coalition is an international organization oriented around severely reducing the power of a single country. And this is the coalition mechanic we see in EU4. It's kind of just a little bit more of the same. They're just... if it's not broken, don't fix it. I do think the EU4's kind of handling of a lot of these things is pretty good, so we could probably live with this AE, though. Can we? This gives plus 73. You could see that they're just taking everything, right? 93 more locations are being taken. You're about to be taken. It's like, what is it, like Liam Neeson's, like, I'm a man with a particular set of provinces. I will find you, and I will take you. Except, anyways. Been taken. And next up we have War Enthusiasm, which is a system that is going to help to force you to eventually negotiate a peace. And I kind of prefer this to, the auto-capitulating system that we have in, Vic 3. Although, if I recall correctly, you can auto-capitulate in EU4 if you're already at -3 stability and they send you a peace deal that's, super good for you, then you auto-accept or something like this. But it's been a while since I played EU4, so it's hard for me to say. That might not be the case. But we have War Enthusiasm. When it comes to how willing a nation is to fight, much of it comes down to their War Enthusiasm. This makes sense. If this is high, then the AI is unlikely to accept peace deal that's not favorable to them. This is determined by the state of the country with war exhaustion, the control of the capital, and military strength are big factors. For the leader, the side of the war, the overall military balance is a huge factor as well. So having a big balance of power is going to be useful, and we will see enthusiasm here. We will see base 50%. Sure, fair enough. War exhaustion is reducing it. Military balance is helping it. We have a casus belli is giving minus, so maybe the casus belli was not very good one. We see the capital, I assume, is not occupied. The war is kind of fresh. Bohemia is making gains. They have a lot of military strength, and they really want to continue the war because the war enthusiasm is 100%, and they're not going to back out. And so you racking up a ton of war exhaustion in your country, I think, should be the thing that forces you to the table, rather than some abstraction taking you down type of mechanic that is just light switched on or off based on whether you control the primary war goal. If you have managed to defend the primary war goal, but you're just getting absolutely cheese grated through the rest of everything else, then you maybe should be willing to accept the war. And also, if nothing bad has happened to you at all in the war, and you don't control the war goal, and they don't have a war goal on you, you shouldn't get auto-enforced on. But I digress. As I said at the start of this, this really just makes me wish Victoria 3 system was a lot more what they're articulated here, or EU4 system. And so This is kind of the lens through which I like process this entire dev diary. But okay. And then we have war participation. Most of the time, you bring allies to help you in a war, but they expect to be rewarded for part of what they pull. The war participation is now how much a country has contributed to the progress of the war. This is primarily done through battles, blockades, and sieges. There are some, like, I think that before it was calculated through casualties in EU4. And maybe they've changed this. This is just how I remembered it, which I always thought was silly because, like, if you fight really well and you don't have a lot of losses and you still cause a lot of damage, you wouldn't have as much participation as someone who just, like, throws their troops into a wood chipper or really bad battles and just loses a bunch of troops. But in any case, this is war participation, informing how things are going to get split at the end, and people wanting to have a little bit at the table. There's none of this in Victoria 3 because it's just the war leader. They kind of determine everything. You don't have to. Currently, there's the reverse sway mechanic in Victoria 3, and you can sway for a particular thing. I think it should be the case that you only get that particular thing if you have enough war participation, because very often you would just sway in Victoria 3, you just sway for the thing and then you just say smell you later and you just capitulate out of the war once the war starts and you are just given the thing. And so a system that requires you to have a particular amount of participation I think would be dramatically preferable, in order to get the thing that you want. And I've always liked the participation mechanic and how it works with, at the end of the war, they expect to be compensated, proportionally in terms of the war score and things that they want to the amount they gave. And if you don't give that, they'll be pissed at you and this type of thing. I always thought that was pretty good. You may sometimes have to convince your allies to join an offensive war that you are starting, and thus you can promise them part of the spoils of war. If the part they gain from signing peace is less than the participation, they will get upset. So there we have it. Stay tuned, as next week we will continue to wish you happy Wednesdays, and we will forget about next week or last week. We'll forget it ever happened, and we will stay strong and continue to wish happy Wednesdays. No, we'll talk about conflicts in the world that do not involve declarations of war, which is intriguing, and negotiations of peace, which is, once again, kind of a system that, when we think through kind of Victoria 3. Currently, the diplomatic play, I think, is like the thing I complain about most with the game, and this is just kind of like just an alternative system that just kind of sounds a lot better. And to those of you who watch my channel who don't play Victoria 3, which I think is very few, apologies for all the Victoria 3 references in this dev diary, but this is really kind of the way I'm processing it through. Is I'm just like, man, all this sounds so great. But we did get our happy Wednesday. It's big, nice. If you like this video, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. We are kind of unpacking every single Tinto talks if you wanted to hear more about them. And other than that, have a happy Wednesday.